Short-term memory is defined as a memory for information currently held in mind and has limited capacity. Short-term memory has the longest time course than sensory memory, around seconds to minutes. For example, based on Miller in 1956, you can hold between 5 to 9 items in short duration. For example, you can hold around 7 items and only last it for 20 seconds. In 1968, Richard Atkinson and Richard Schifrin proposed in the model that all input information is first stored in the sensory system. Then the information items selected by the attentional process pass to short-term memory. If you rehearse the items, the encoded information in the short-term memory then can move into long-term memory to store the selected item. Each stage of memory actually has a different characteristics. The model, also known as a multi-store model, proposed that at each stage the encoded information can be degrading and lost over time. Newly encoded information replaces old information, which also called as interference, or a combination of this process. In 1969, Shellis and Warrington from University College of London reported that a patient with damage to the left perisylvian cortex indicated reduced digit span's ability for the short-term memory test, which is the patient is asked to read and remember list of digits. This patient only can recall 2 items as compared to 5 to 9 items as in healthy persons. However, for long-term memory tests associated with learnings of pairs of words showed that the patient can retain the new long-term memories. These findings indicated that short-term memory might not be required to form long-term memory, which does not align with the model developed by Atkinson and Schifrin in 1968. But when we look at the types of tasks used in short-term and long-term memory tests, in this patient is different, which is digit span and word association for short-term and long-term memory tests respectively. Recent research by Markovich et al. In 1999 in Germany in a patient with tumor centered in the left angular gyrus. The tumor affected the inferior parietal cortex and the posterior superior temporal cortex. Brain areas similar to but slightly different from a patient in 1968. After surgery, this patient shows a deficit of short-term memory abilities but preserves long-term memory. This patient shows a similar pattern in the previous patient. The data from these findings indicate segregation between long-term memory ability and short-term memory retention. This might be due to the digits and words that used during the test is overlearned material, which is not effective for learning short-term memory. The encoded information enters long-term memory with another possible way. From the study by Miller in 1956, Bedley et al. In 1966, and Bedley 1975 involving digits and words during short-term memory tests, Bedley et al. 1984 proposed that these span tasks have different characteristics. To process this information, at least two components involved, which are the phonological loop and articulatory loop, to process speech perception and speech production mechanism. The concept of working memory is an extension of the concept of short-term memory. Working memory is the holding of selected items of information in a readily accessible form and manipulates the information to facilitate planning, comprehension, reasoning, and problem solving. Working memory has a short process, longer time cost than short-term memory, around seconds to minutes, because it involves storage and manipulation process. In 1997, Bedley and Hitch from University of York disputed the unitary short-term memory system. This is because of short-term memory concept was incapable of elucidating the storage and information processing over a short period. Hence, they proposed that working memory system composed of three parts, which are phonological loop, visual spatial sketch patch, and central executive. The involving of central executive process is suggested as a control center to control two subordinate systems, phonological and visual spatial, in rehearsal of different types of information. However, in the year of 2000, Bedley introduced another component called episodic buffer into the working memory system. The episodic buffer is proposed as a temporary storage system that modulates and integrates different sensory information. In 2005 and 2008, Cowan suggested that working memory processes is closely related to long-term memory process. Therefore, based on this finding in 2005 and 2008, in 2010, Bedley proposed attention as one of the components involved in working memory system. Based on these concepts proposed in the working memory that we have discussed just now, there are numerous neuroscience studies intended to demonstrate the neural activity and brain activation patterns correspond to the working memory system. In 2018, Winger et al. Translate the concept of multi-component working memory model proposed by Bedley in 2010 to specific brain region in human. The figure shows a simplified depiction of Bedley's multi-component working memory model in 2010 as implicated in the brain. It has been established that verbal and acoustic information activates Broca's and Wernicke's. Visual spatial information activates the occipital areas, especially more in the right hemisphere. The frontoparietal network involving dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate cortex, and the parietal cortex demonstrate as the working memory neural network. Dorsolateral prefrontal cortex has been primarily implicated in tasks demanding executive control, such as decision-making, which require integrating of information, maintenance and manipulation or retrieval of stored information, or relating to taxing loads such as capacity limit and information updating. Anterior cingulate cortex has been shown to act as an attention controller, that evaluates the needs of adjustment and adaptation of received information based on task demand. Parietal cortex has been regarded as the workspace, the episodic buffer for sensory or perceptual processing. This figure shows the hierarchical model of working memory in which ventrolateral prefrontal cortex activates and maintains information, and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex manipulates the information. So the prefrontal cortex shows its roles as a controller executive.